And finally today, again, we've only obliquely mentioned the trouble Intel seems to be in. We haven't really had the chance to dig deeper. So in aid of that, I point you to yesterday's newsletter from none other than Ben Thompson at Stratechery. Ben says that Intel is actually in more danger than its profits and balance sheet suggests at the moment. He says Intel should immediately spin off its manufacturing business unless the U.S. could somehow subsidize it in the interests of having a strong national semiconductor industry. Quote, in short, Intel is losing share in PCs even as it is threatened by AMD for x86 servers in the data center, and even as cloud companies like Amazon integrated backwards into the processor. I haven't even touched on the increase in other specialized data center operations like GPU-based applications for machine learning, which are designed by companies like NVIDIA and manufactured by Samsung. What makes this situation so dangerous for Intel is the volume issue I noted above. The company already missed mobile, and while server chips provided the growth the company needed to invest in manufacturing over the last decade, the company can't afford to lose volume at the very moment it needs to invest more than ever. Intel needs to be split in two. Yes, integrating design and manufacturing was the foundation of Intel's moat for decades, but that integration has become a straitjacket for both sides of the business. Intel's designs are held back by the company's struggles in manufacturing, while its manufacturing has an incentive problem. The only way to fix this incentive problem is to spin off Intel's manufacturing business. Yes, it will take time to build out the customer service components necessary to work with third parties, not to mention the huge library of IP building blocks that make working with a company like TSMC relatively easy. But a standalone manufacturing business will have the most powerful incentive possible to make this transformation happen: the need to survive. This also opens the door for the U.S. to start pumping money into the sector. Right now, it makes no sense for the U.S. to subsidize Intel. The company doesn't actually build what the U.S. needs, and the company clearly has culture and management issues that won't be fixed with money for nothing. That is why a federal subsidy program should operate as a purchase guarantee. The U.S. will buy A amount of U.S.-produced 5nm processors for B price, C amount of U.S.-produced 3nm processors for D price, E amount of U.S.-produced 2nm processors for F price, etc. This will not only give the new Intel manufacturing spinoff something to strive for, but also incentivize other companies to invest. Perhaps Global Foundries will get back in the game, or TSMC will build more fabs in the U.S., and in a world of nearly free capital, perhaps there will finally be a startup willing to take the leap, end quote. I would also point you to a tweet thread involving John Masters and others, which is the final link in the show notes today that includes this summation by @CynicalSecurity, quote, as I've been saying over and over again, Intel suffers from PTSD, which has been piling up over several failed processors and causes. In effect, internal panic towards any decision which deviates from x86, which is the only processor which ever made them money, end quote.